Here's a question nobody asks out loud. When was the last time you felt settled? Not on vacation, not between jobs, not waiting for something to start or something to end, just settled. Like you were exactly where you were supposed to be with exactly the people you were supposed to know. And it would still be true next year. Take a moment. Actually try to remember. For most people watching this, that moment is hard to find. And it's getting harder. Because something has quietly changed about modern life. Not in a headline-grabbing way, just a slow, structural shift in the texture of everyday existence. Friendships that used to last decades now expire after a life phase ends. Relationships cycle faster than they ever have. You live somewhere for 2 years, maybe 3, then the job changes or the rent goes up and you start over somewhere new. You scroll through 1,000 opinions a day and somehow feel less informed. You buy things, use them briefly, discard them, and buy again. Nothing feels permanent anymore. And the strangest part, the part that should make us stop and think, is that we're not imagining it. The data confirms it, the psychology explains it, and buried inside the explanation is something that genuinely changes how you think about the way you're living. So let's go there. Start with something you probably own, a piece of furniture. Flat pack, assembled in an afternoon, roughly the right size, good enough. And somewhere in the back of your mind when you bought it, you thought, I'll probably leave this behind when I move. You will. But here's what's interesting. That thought, this is temporary, used to be unusual. A generation ago, people bought furniture to keep. They bought homes to stay in. They took jobs they planned to hold for 30 years. They had friends they'd known since childhood and expected to know until they died. That wasn't just sentiment. That was the actual structure of life. For most of human history, the average person lived and died within 30 miles of where they were born. Your neighbors were your neighbors for life. The people around you had known your parents. You weren't networking, you were embedded. Woven into a place and a set of relationships so deeply that your identity and your community were almost indistinguishable. Sociologist Robert Putnam spent years tracking what happened to that kind of community in America. What he found was stark. Membership in civic groups, neighborhood associations, religious organizations, all of it collapsed through the second half of the 20th century. People stopped showing up to communal life. The connective tissue frayed. He published his findings in a book called Bowling Alone. In the year 2000, before social media existed, he had no idea what was coming. Here is what actually happened, and this is the part most people get wrong. We tend to blame technology, or capitalism, or phones, but most are symptoms. The real shift started with something that looked, at the time, like pure progress: mobility. Post-war economic growth created a world where opportunity wasn't spread evenly. It was concentrated in specific cities, specific industries, specific zip codes. If you wanted to work in finance, you moved to where finance was. Tech, same. Creative industries, same. And so people started moving for opportunity, for escape, for reinvention. Each move was a fresh start, and fresh starts are genuinely good. Ask anyone who left a suffocating small town. Ask anyone who built a life on their own terms in a new city. Mobility gave people something the rooted world often denied them: freedom. But here's what nobody said out loud. Every fresh start is also a small ending. Every move is a quiet severance from the people and place you are connected to. And when you move enough times, when you learn through repetition that connections don't last, you start to protect yourself. You hold back. You stop fully investing. You start treating every city like a layover. And then the phone arrived, and everything accelerated. Think about what social media actually did to friendship. Not what it promised: connection at scale, staying in touch, being part of each other's lives. What it actually delivered. It gave us a way to perform connection without the cost of it. To watch someone's life from a distance and call it closeness. To react to a story with a flame emoji and feel like we'd checked in. To have 500 followers and no one to call. There's a term in psychology: ambient awareness. The sense that you know what's happening with people because you see their posts. The problem is that ambient awareness feels like connection. It registers in your brain as social contact, but it's hollow. It doesn't build trust. It doesn't survive difficulty. It doesn't accumulate into the kind of relationship that matters when things go wrong. And the platforms are designed to keep it that way. Not through malice, through optimization. Every feature on every major social platform is built to maximize engagement, which means novelty, which means moving on. Nothing is designed to go deeper. Everything is designed to keep you scrolling forward. The average TikTok user opens the app 19 times a day, not because they're addicted in a clinical sense, because the feed has been engineered at extraordinary expense to be more immediately rewarding than reality. When the feed is more compelling than the person sitting next to you, something has broken. Now, here's the question nobody wants to sit with. What does this do to a human being? Because we are not built for this. Our brains, our nervous systems, our deepest psychological wiring, none of it evolved for a world of endless novelty and frictionless replacement. For the vast majority of human history, we lived in small, stable groups of 20 to 50 people. Everyone knew everyone. Your identity wasn't something you constructed and performed. It was something that emerged from being known over time by specific people. Belonging wasn't a feeling you chased, it was the water you swam in. When that's missing, and it is increasingly missing, the body notices. Chronic loneliness elevates cortisol. It weakens immune response. It accelerates cognitive decline. Neurologically, social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. This is not a metaphor. You can see it on a brain scan. In 2023, the United States Surgeon General formally declared loneliness a public health epidemic. Not a cultural mood, not a generational complaint, an epidemic. And here's what makes it insidious. The loneliness of modern life is largely invisible. You can be surrounded by people, in an office, at a party, in a city of millions, and feel profoundly unseen, because being surrounded is not the same as being known. And the modern world has become very good at providing the former while quietly eliminating the conditions for the latter. There is a feeling that has no name in English. It tends to arrive on Sunday afternoons or late at night after a social event that should have felt good. A specific hollow ache. Not grief, exactly, not depression, something quieter. The sense that the people and places and moments you've cared about have slipped past you too fast to hold. The Japanese call a version of it mono no aware, the bittersweet awareness that nothing lasts. The Portuguese have saudade, a longing for something beloved that may never return. The fact that other cultures name this feeling tells you something. It is not new, but the frequency of it is new. The way it hums underneath so much of modern life, not as an occasional visitor, but as a constant background frequency. A woman who has moved 4 times in 5 years and doesn't know where home is. A man with 500 professional connections and no one he can call at midnight. A couple who broke up not because anything was catastrophically wrong, but because modern life had made staying feel harder than leaving. These are not edge cases. These are the mainstream of modern experience. But before we go further, I want to complicate this, because there is a version of this argument that is lazy, the version that says the past was better and we've lost something precious, the version that sounds like nostalgia but is actually just selective memory. The rooted communities of the past were also communities of enforcement. The small town where everyone knew everyone was often the small town where everyone watched everyone, where leaving was betrayal, where difference was punished, where women were permanent in marriages they never chose, where gay people performed straightness for survival, where minorities navigated belonging that was always conditional. Mobility didn't just bring opportunity. For millions of people, it brought escape. A chance at a life that fit. The loosening of rigid social structures was not a tragedy, it was liberation. So the question isn't whether the old world was better. It wasn't. Not for everyone, not even for most. The question is sharper. Did we accidentally throw out the roots along with the chains? Is there a version of modern life that keeps the freedom and recovers the depth? There might be, and the answer comes from an unexpected place. Harvard University began tracking a group of men in 1938. They followed them for the rest of their lives. 85 years of data. Health, wealth, career, relationships. And when researchers analyzed what actually predicted happiness and well-being in old age, the answer was not money, not status, not achievement. It was the quality of relationships, not the quantity, not the network, not the follower count, the depth of connection over time. The people who knew you when you were young and still knew you when you were old. The relationships that had survived difficulty and distance and change and remained. 85 years of data. That was the finding, which means permanence isn't just a feeling we miss. It is, in the most literal, measurable sense, what a good life is made of. So here is where I land. Permanence didn't disappear. We stopped investing in it. We stopped investing in friendships that required effort, the kind where you show up when it's inconvenient, where you work through conflict instead of quietly drifting. We stopped investing in physical communities because the frictionless scroll was easier and faster and gave us the sensation of connection without the demands of it. We stopped investing in places because we told ourselves we were temporary, and so the place never became home, and so we were proven right. We built a world of infinite options and forgot that commitment requires choosing against options, that depth requires saying, this, not everything else. The most radical thing a person can do in the modern world might be this: pick up the phone and actually call. Show up when it's inconvenient. Join the local thing, the imperfect thing, the thing that requires your physical presence on a Tuesday night. Let people know you fully, not the version you've curated, but you, the complicated, real one. And stay. Not because leaving is wrong, but because some things only become real when you decide they're permanent. Permanence is not something that happens to you. It's something you build, slowly, with specific people, in specific places, over years. And in a world that is moving faster than it ever has, in a world that will always offer you an exit, an upgrade, a fresh start, a new feed, choosing to remain might be the most human thing left to do.
Most people are asking the same questions. Few take the time to explore them. Keep exploring.